probably haven't heard of Leventis. We're actually a decent-sized firm. We've got about 160 engineers worldwide, but we don't only do Magento and don't only do e-commerce. So what we're both very excited about as far as what Magento's potential is for the B2B market. We think that's really where it's got the best opportunity, where it's really viable. And the reason I mentioned that we're not only a Magento vendor is because, or Magento agency, is because we do a lot of custom solution builds for our clients, depending on what their business needs are. But we're still finding that in the commerce space for our B2B clients, it's a great solution. There's a lot of flexibility, there's a lot of opportunity with it. Now, we're going to be talking today a little bit about, that screen's not changing yet. Okay. We're going to be talking today a little bit about some of the opportunities with B2B commerce as well as the challenges. But I'm also going to highlight a case study where we took a couple of those challenges, and maybe it'll spark a little inspiration for you if you're a developer or an agency, if you're a vendor, kind of see what the potential is. So hopefully you find some value here. I do want to mention on that previous screen, you notice that I had the New York Public Library image up there. The reason for that, obviously, we're in New York, but the case study I'm going to talk about is a company that sells 2 libraries and has a pretty unique, some pretty unique needs that we had to service. Also notice that we're almost to Halloween, so you might see some familiar faces here that you might recognize from the New York Public Library. You'll see those come up in a minute here. But as far as the B2B market, globally, in 2025, there is a global market of $32.1 trillion in potential revenue, or that was done through the global marketplace. Year-over-year growth from 2024 to 2025, 14.4% increase. When you compare that to the B2C market, it's a significant difference, approximately 11 times larger and growing faster. So if you're an agency and you're not looking at B2B potential clients, there's a lot of opportunity there. A lot of them that still haven't gotten heavily into B2B commerce, and the opportunity exists, and a lot that are on very maybe dated systems, legacy systems, and they're not providing the type of commerce experience that their purchasers that are expecting now because they're used to shopping in commerce. So some pretty good opportunity there.
Yeah, another point is that from our perspective, when we agreed to make a talk together, it was very crucial for us to show up something where Magento is really outstanding leader, and it's B2B niche. Why? Because of these challenges, first of all. Probably everybody here understands that B2B means huge catalogs. When we're saying about huge catalogs, we say about at least 50,000 of SKUs, normally with different set of attributes, normally a large set of attributes, what makes the system pretty heavy. So it means load time of your pages going up and your conversion going down. Normally, if you take a look at any other platform, they have a lot of limitations on the catalog, size, or number of attributes you can support there. Also, in terms of flexibility of B2B functionality, it's also a challenge. So another thing that normally is underestimated is multi-website support. Only Magento, out of the box, can make your solution scalable and with ease of localization. You can easily make one store view for US market, another one for Canada, one more for Mexico, and it's not a problem at all. Try to make it with Shopify, for example, or BigCommerce. It will be a challenge, if it's not possible at all. So it's another point. One more thing is to consider how flexible can be your system, what workflows you can support there. Do you need to make special, let's say, value discounts, or staking discounts, or specific approval cycles? Take into account flexibility that Magento gives you, take into account number of extensions on the market, and difference between Magento open source and even Adobe Commerce gives different number of options out of the box what you can bring there. So normally what you should take in account is, for example, you're working as a B2B provider with different vendors, and you would like to support different SKUs for them to upload the catalog. It's pretty easy to implement this feature in terms of Magento open source solution, taking account that you can add as many attributes as you like and support a little bit like a workflow. It's not so flexible. It's the same as like with discounts. Stakeable discounts at Shopify were not even introduced before this year. Only this summer they made it like stakeable, but only 2 of them. Number of sales rules are limited as well. In Magento you can have as many as you like. I'm not talking about, let's say, ad hoc of approval cycles. So basically that's why we decided to spend some time on B2B use cases and making sure that you at least, let's say, can measure what you initially need. For example, if you have smaller business and you're doing B2C, small startup, definitely Magento is not the best choice. But if you have mature business with very sophisticated processes, with a huge approval cycles, when there are sub-accounts and different vendors are buying products from your website, definitely it's probably Magento is the best choice for you.
All right, so we're going to focus on 2 specific challenges that this client had. So the client I'm talking about is a company called Libraria. They basically sell books to both public libraries, but they also service K-12 public schools. And so what's interesting is that those are 2 very different customers, different processes, even though they're selling the same product, mostly the same product catalog to these customers. So we're just going to talk through a couple of the challenges that we dealt with on this particular customer and how we solved it with a combination of some of the technology that's built into Magento, some add-ons, and what needed to be done to kind of to successfully meet those needs. I will mention too, sorry, in case you didn't notice the image in the background, like I said, a little Halloween theme here. One thing I'll note is that, as I said, we're a custom solution developer as well. And so when we scoped this project out, because it's a very unique solution, very unique commerce solution, if we were to do this custom, it was about 2.5 times the cost of using Magento and doing the customization needed or working with the existing tools that we could build into it. So a pretty good cost savings. Magento still makes a good case, a good value case for customers that have these complex needs versus building something completely unique. So let me just talk about a couple of the unique challenges that this customer faces in their 2 types of businesses. So this is challenge number 1. They have multiple B2B segments that have very different needs. They're K-12 school libraries. We're going to talk about the purchasing kind of workflow here. The K-12 school libraries typically involve a single district librarian who's purchasing for multiple businesses. That's not a very unusual B2B process, right? You've got sometimes one ordering person that's purchasing for multiple stores. So that was something that we could accomplish without too much customization. But their public library process, purchasing process, was very different from that. It was basically what they would have is individual libraries, sometimes multiple librarians at a single library would be wanting to make purchases, but then they had to go through an approval process, and the final purchase process was done usually at a city government level. So it wasn't just an individual that was placing the order and finalizing it. So the way we solved this is a couple different solutions here. And one of the reasons I was excited to present with Amnesty today is because we took advantage of some of their solutions to kind of jumpstart how we accomplish these goals. With the K-12 schools, we leveraged the Amnesty B2B company account module. If you're on Adobe Commerce if you're on Magento open source, as you know, Adobe Commerce kind of highlights the fact that one of the reasons you would purchase it is to go with the B2B features. But I can tell you that it's not necessary, and Amnesty makes it pretty easy. A lot of the B2B features that are available in Adobe Commerce, or the ones that will meet a lot of businesses' needs, can be supplied with Amnesty's B2B company account solution. But that allowed us to get most of the way towards the purchasing process for our K-12 schools. We did some minor extension extension off their module to customize it just enough. By the way, I was going to show some screenshots, but as it turns out, a Magento admin is not a very compelling slideshow, so I thought I'd just explain it instead. But then on the other side, for the public libraries, they have a very different approach. The way that they approach their purchasing is that the librarians would actually create a list of all the books that they wanted to purchase. They couldn't actually check out, but you, in many cases, had many librarians in a district or in a city that were kind of creating the list, and they needed to go through an approval process. So it was kind of a unique scenario. We started off with Amnesty's multiple wish list functionality, and then customized it pretty heavily from there to support them. Aside from just that purchase workflow, some of the other things we were able to help provide for them was the ability for them to import their existing collections from the library out of their library management systems and basically identify if anything on the list matched what was already in their library so that they could exclude those automatically. So just preventing duplicate orders, for example. We also built in a feature to allow them to export into this MARC format, which is the way that the public library management systems consume this data. So you know, took the extension and really customized it heavily. A couple notes on this process, and you know, I'm sure if you're a developer, many of you have been through some of these things before. But what we like to say is, let's take a look to see what's available as functionality first. Are there modules that do what we need? If they're pretty close, then we like to start there and expand a little bit if needed with those modules. If you are looking at a module that you have a very, you know, a very small need for, and you are and you're trying to accomplish something that's very different from that module, generally, probably a good idea just to build custom. But in this case, we could take advantage of some of that functionality. Be creative. You know, our goal really with our customers is to never really get in the way of their process. We want to make sure that we're trying to make things as efficient as possible. So we never say, Magento can't do that, or there isn't a module that does that. We'll build it for you if we need to. So our approach is always just to be creative, find the best tools and the best solution for them. But lastly, be very careful with the extensions that you use. There are plenty of vendors that are not really supporting their solutions very well. That, you know, creates potential security risks, maintainability issues, and things like that. So again, one of the reasons we're happy to partner with Amnesty is because we have a lot of trust in what they're putting out there, and when we're using their solutions, we know they're going to be maintained. All right, let's go to problem number 2, and this is a more common problem that I think any B2B business is going to struggle from. And yeah, that's the face that my architect made when he saw that they had 82 custom attributes on their catalog. So 800,000 products, 2,000 different categories, and literally 82 custom attributes. This is a library, so if you've ever looked at something like Amazon's book attributes, you know there's a lot of different things that you can search for, but then the libraries have even more than that, because not only do they have to keep all the information, the tags, all the different you know, ways that people can search for books, but they have a lot of different types of things that can be ordered. For example, when a library is ordering a book, they get to choose whether it's got that plastic coating on it when it's sent from the distributor, or if it has the little card holders inside. Like, those are all options or attributes that had to be set on all these products. So quite sophisticated product catalog, quite complicated. And so I'm going to just share a couple of the technical approaches that our team took to optimize this catalog and get it running so it's a really fantastic user experience for these librarians that are shopping on this site. First of all, you know, we're using OpenSearch as the search library here. We did some heavy optimization to that. So again, you're not stuck with what's out of the box with OpenSearch. You can get into the weeds a little bit and customize it fairly heavily. So that was an approach we took to make sure that we were optimizing to make sure that the types of searches that are being done and the type of attributes that are being done are handled as well as possible. We built a lot of purpose-built logic in the search results based on the type of attributes. So depending on really what the customers are going to need, you know, depending on attributes, there's some custom logic that had to be added in the API logic to, you know, to interact with the front end. And then lastly, because of the matrices of different search attributes that are being used on this particular, you should see the filter list. So, you know, not only do they have your normal set of the types of filters you would expect, like categories and things like that, there's many, many drill downs, many different layers. So we optimize some of that by using post filtering to just make that initial search remain and then do additional searches on top of that as people expanded the attributes. So this gets a little bit technical and to be honest, over my head in some ways. I got some of this information from our engineers. But if you have struggled with optimizing your large catalogs or B2B catalogs, these are some things to look into, some techniques to maybe do a little research on and see if you can find some solutions with them. All in, we've got a very satisfied customer. We launched this large B2B initiative. It was about a 6-month turnaround project, but successful. They've been up and running for about a year and a half now. We're continuing to enhance some of the functionality with it, but they've been happy. The platform that we moved them to was an older custom solution. When we got introduced to this client and did a little bit of analysis, ton of security flaws and data holes and things like that, a lot of buggy functionality. But their customers have reacted really strongly with this Magento solution, and the sales are improved through their e-commerce process, and overall it's been a great success for them.
So as a takeaway, what we would like to recommend. First of all, Magento is a very powerful solution, a very fast solution for your B2B business. The main problem is how you cook it. Almost everything you can spoil. Like there is no platform that fits all sizes and provides the best results regardless what you do. You need to understand what you are doing with it and why. So normally I would start with very smart and simple approach. Do not add features for the future. Add only features that they are using at the moment, because every piece of code reduces your performance. Normally it works this way. There is no code that costs you nothing. Every line of code will make your performance worse. Like every extra sales rule, extra parameter will make your system a little bit slower. So basically you need to leave only features, as Tim said, what you're going to use, and do not get, feature-rich extensions. We've seen some vendors that for some reason bought 3 different checkouts and installed all of them. I don't know how it works, but 3 extensions of a checkout for one website is too much. But sometimes it happens. So be minimalistic. Second thing, performance is not something that is given and you need to test just once. With every change, it can change dramatically. Any feature could be, let's say, game changer for you. That's why we're checking all our extensions on every release, and if we see degradation of the performance, we rework it and return back only if the, let's say, performance is the same or better than before the release. Normally it gets with the site as well. You can add very small feature, but that will trigger your reindexing every time as you're adding mini picture. We had such issue with navigation when you're adding small image to category, it reindexes all the catalog. So it was great that we found it very fast and improved it before bring issues to real clients. But normally it happens, so you need to be very attentive to even small details. And yes, make your testing data set very close to production as possible.
Yeah, absolutely on that. Again, that's 80,000 products works a lot different than when you've got a couple thousand test products or a couple hundred test products or things like that. So what we try to do with an environment like this is create a staging environment that really exactly matches the production catalog, even regular times backport the production catalog to staging so that you can, all of your testing, your new feature development, everything is running on that real data. And that's been successful for us. So again, hopefully that gives you a little bit of inspiration if you've struggled with, with dealing with larger B2B sites or catalogs or feature sets, that there are some pathways to get there. If you're an agency or a developer and you haven't really kind of approached that B2B market because you're familiar, you're used to working with B2C, you know it well, I would say don't hesitate. It's a great marketplace to get into and a great place to grow your business and opportunities to show what Magento can really do. That to be honest, this platform could never run on a Shopify or BigCommerce or any of the software as a service platforms. So Magento was a great middle ground between doing something that was completely custom. We didn't have to build everything from scratch. It was great. With that said, any questions? Does anyone, any final thoughts? Yeah.
So how does the sales team interact with, or do they have like a sales team, or is it all direct e-commerce?
That's a good question. I'm not in the day-to-day process with them, but they do have a sales team. I know that, and I think a lot of the time what they're doing is providing sales support. They're showing the the clients, their clients, the librarians, what are new products and things like that. But a lot of the actual interfacing with between the client and the purchasing process is all done through the site. And again, we replaced what was a custom site, so their customers were pretty familiar with this process. It was a requirement, again, because of this unique format, the MARC format that they needed to import into their other system for any orders. There had to be a digital interface, and that's been in place for a little while. But this was a big improvement, a much more streamlined workflow, and just allowed them to kind of update and manage new features at a much faster rate than before.
So you'd say for their customers, it's self-service?
It's mostly self-service. Yep.
Curious about the library. Was there information coming from a PIM or like an ERP system? Because one of the things I've found with B2B is that building a B2B website is great, but the old time system using the ERP system is what orders and adaptability is like the biggest challenge. How do you, first of all, what was that information coming from, and how do you get over that hump of like trying to get everybody on board and using the B2B website?
Yeah, so of course you want a single source of truth for your product catalog, and that's absolutely true in this case as well. So our vendor does have their ERP system where they're still managing their products, and so we're treating that as the PIM. So the product catalog isn't created here, it is imported from another system, but yeah, I mean it's integrated pretty seamlessly. So when they're changing products in their legacy ERP system, the products are getting updated on the site. So yeah, it's worked pretty smoothly there. But we've seen it go the other way too sometimes. We've got clients that want the website to be the source of truth because it gives them the most control over the content, the product images, things like that. And then they'll backport that data or only keep a subset of it in their ERP system. In this case, they are managing the products outside of Magento. Mm-hmm.
How do you handle the billing sync?
The billing sync.
To keep if they're doing ERP, I'm assuming they're writing their invoices to ERP as well. So how do you keep the data sync between the client interface, the customer interface,
Mm-hmm.
and then the back end?
Yeah, that's one of the interesting things about B2B we find a lot is that most of the time the customers are not paying through the e-commerce site. And that's true in this case. The librarians and the K-12 schools are not purchasing via credit card. All they're doing really is placing the order through the site. And so the billing all happens through in this case, their ERP system or their back-end system, where they basically then got the PO, they charge it to the customer's account, and then the customers pay on their terms. So there really doesn't have to be any syncing as far as the payment processing. Now we do have some B2B clients that do some combination. They'll almost always have terms options, but many B2B customers will also allow credit card syncing. And typically, so what they'll do there is when they pay by credit card, what they're really doing is just authorizing the charge. And then when the order is placed in the ERP, we'll have provided the credit card token, and then they'll charge the token, charge the card with the same. The ERP charges it, yeah. That's typically how it would work when you're doing the actual payment on the front end.
And then do they see their invoices in their account, or they go through their account?
I think that they do have, I apologize, I don't actually know about that feature for sure, but I think that they do have the access to the invoices and the previous orders through some of the Magento account management features that are built in there with some modifications to it. So I believe that's stuff that we're importing back from their ERP after the orders are fulfilled.
It's pretty easy to import, export almost everything you need.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
I had one question regarding so is the API logic that you were talking about, is it like customizable as per your client,
No, definitely
Can you
different.
repeat the question?
Yeah, he was asking if the search optimization that we did is something that's you like across all of our clients, or it's unique to each one. No, it's definitely it's every in this case it's per instance, but this is a single instance of Magento that supports their multiple types of clients. But the optimization's all done on one database. Yeah.
I'm curious about the process. Like we know often that when you're dealing with complexities, it's not a one-way street. You have an idea and then you encounter complexities. Like, was there something that surprised you, or you had to change direction, and how do you approach the things that don't work the way you expect? And
Yeah.
then, do you have a process?
Yeah, so it's very complicated. If any of your agencies have done development for complex sites before, you have to prep your client, or you as a reseller should be, or a retailer should be aware of the risks. We don't operate in a waterfall model, and you shouldn't. In this day and age, there's opportunities to really iterate and show people how things are working as you make small adjustments. So what we do is typically work in 2-week sprints. So we're doing development, demoing what we can show, and oftentimes if it doesn't quite meet expectations, then we can pivot as quickly as possible. So pretty typical agile process. As an agency, it's a little bit of a hybrid typically, because your clients want to know what they're going to pay to some extent. And we don't do fixed bids because especially on a project like this, because it's impossible. But you do need to set some expectations. So we have to have enough detail up front to kind of know at least the level of complexity, the scope of the features we're dealing with. But what we know is that there's going to be change that happens as we start to implement features. In this case, we happen to have a working example of how they wanted some of the features to work because they had an existing system. We don't always get that. Sometimes you're basically developing from somebody's vision. And in that case, we try to do a lot with visual mock-ups before we get to the actual coding part of it, so that we can at least show people what the interfaces are going to look like, what they can expect the user experience to work like, and things like that. To be honest, that's actually getting even more important as we're starting to use AI coding tools, because what we can do is prototype very fast, very quickly. Our UX designers will actually use some AI tools to take what used to take them 50 hours to do mock-ups for a certain set of features or screens. They can do it in maybe 4 or 5 hours right now. So prototyping is becoming much faster. But also, then we can really drive, if we get enough requirements for a single feature or for a single page up front, we can feed those and use AI. We happen to be using GitHub.com right now and Copilot to essentially create a lot of the features, just feeding it the right business requirements and screen mock-ups. So that gives us a good head start. Obviously that code isn't completed, it's not bug-free or anything like that, but it helps us get to a proof of concept or an actual working model faster than we used to be able to, because it's not 60 hours of coding, it might be 5 hours of coding to show something that we can actually click through and show drop-downs and stuff like that.